A mysterious underworld operative appeared one month in the Devil's Due publishing era of G.I. Joe comic books. Someone who was a ghost, a wraith, whose name was whispered in fear, for if you saw him it would be your last moments alive. Let's talk about Wraith. Thanks for watching JLS Comics. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. I upload videos just like this every single week. Alright, let's jump into our story. Mercenary Wraith was born as Charles Halifax in Lyon, France. Not much is known about him, but as he grew up and became a renowned covert operative, an expert in espionage, counterintelligence, and associated fieldcraft, Halifax became Europe's #1 elimination specialist, and that was from the moment he came on the scene. And as his notoriety and his legend grew, the US's Central Intelligence Agency, England's MI5, and Interpol have tried to either recruit him or kill him. Wraith also came on the radar of both G.I. Joe and the terrorist organization known as Cobra. Both Cobra and G.I. Joe hoped that Wraith would join their ranks, but it was Destro who figured out the key to Wraith. As his file card says, Destro was the only one who discovered what Mercenary Wraith truly lives for: chaos and destruction. Mercenary Wraith doesn't care about causes or sides, right or wrong. He cares only about the next mission or battle, the next chance to cause harm. At a pivotal moment in Halifax's nefarious career, he walked into a Chinese military site and penetrated the storage area for their prototype stealth assault suit, something made in collaboration with none other than the Red Shadows. He put on the suit and walked out, killing everyone in his path. The casualties were astronomical, the intel reports noted. Halifax had walked in as himself, and he walked out as Mercenary Wraith. He now had sole possession of and sole discretion over the application of this high-tech, bleeding-edge battle suit, a suit that gave him visual stealth. We could say that this was the latest generation in Pythonization. The Python Vipers do call themselves Wraith after all. The suit gave Halifax a massive advantage on the battlefield or in the back alleyways of unnamed cities on wet work black bag ops where you only see an outline of Wraith before he takes you out. Through this, Destro was able to gain Wraith's loyalty. In an interview, Brandon Jerwa commented about his creation. "Well, I created him," he said. "He was part of my original pitch to Devil's Due, although we altered his original planned appearance to make it work with Talent Caldwell's availability. I was shocked when Josh told me we were going to be making such a big deal out of Wraith's debut, but his introduction ended up being very natural in terms of the story going on around him." Around the time that Jerwa pitched to Josh Blaylock, he says he was inspired by, at the time, recent news about active camouflage, invisibility cloaks, if you will. As futuristic as that sounds, visual stealth is not new technology conceptually. For example, dazzle camouflage was used extensively in World War I, giving ships wild cubist art paint schemes. Then counter-illumination and Yehudi lights were used during World War II on planes and boats to play with light and dark. Then there was paint, speed, RCS, and stealth tech development at Nellis Air Force's test and training range on the U-2 Dragon Lady, A-12 Oxcart, SR-71 Blackbird, Have Blue, which turned into the F-117 Nighthawk, Tacit Blue, which turned into the B-2 Bomber, and Boeing's YF-118G Bird of Prey flew test flights out of Groom Lake in the 90s. It was named after the warship used by the Klingons in Star Trek to cloak their space fleet. Compass Ghost was employed on F-4s in Vietnam, and the Predator used visual stealth in '87 to fight Arnold in the South American jungle, and just like Wonder Woman's jet, it wasn't real, but the concept was. In the late 90s, the Air Force was testing electrochromic panels on F-15 Eagles that flicker. In fact, they're called flickering skins, where the heat signature is meant to overload incoming missiles' onboard computers. And here's one you don't hear about every day. They were also testing a skin made from electromagnetically conductive polyaniline-based radar-absorbent materials that become visually transparent when an electric charge is applied. They were also testing very thin fluorescent exterior photosensitive panels which would take a photograph on one side of the aircraft, reading things like color and ambient brightness, and display it on the opposite side. Though at the time, contrails were still a giveaway, but the anti-contrail system on the F-117 and B-2 would help with that. Shortly after Wraith's debut, he was testing nanowire-infused optical metamaterials, and then BAE Systems announced their adaptive IR camo technology, which uses 1,000 5.5-inch Peltier panels to hide main battle tanks. Not to mention a plethora of UAV and UCAV platforms like the Predator, which employs similar tech, and newer technology like e-ink displays. Now they look to their newest airframes like the B-21 Raider and the RQ-180, which, as deep penetrators, would benefit from this technology. And the University of Kansas Lighting Research Lab was developing electroluminescence technology right at the same time. And we won't get into Commando Dagger and Commando Spirit MCX projects or things like Project IX and Project 10's AFSOC MC-130JH projects. In other words, the technology exists for Wraith's suit, and this is what Jura leaned on for his new character. And then when they developed 2009's Rise of Cobra movie, they put this very camo suit concept on screen. So anyways, after the meeting, Talent Caldwell, an artist of Michael Turner's Aspen Studios stable of talent, pun intended, came back with the character design for Wraith. And much like the history I outlined just now, Mistress Armada described the suit's technology in story. She said it's covered by a virtually invisible mesh that's made up of thousands of nano-optic fiber optic tubes. One set of optic tubes sends constant real-time video to the suit's central processing unit, and the CPU then feeds the feed to a second set of optic tubes, which project the image in 360 degrees all around Wraith. She said it's next-gen holography. But that's not where the tech stops. Wraith's helmet had full comms and sensor array inside, and all that incoming data was displayed on a 3D display. He also had a lightweight built-in exosuit with a hydraulic joint system that gave him enhanced strength and stability. He also had an advanced onboard battery system and a method of ending the stealth option and using that same system for solar energy to recharge his onboard batteries. And on top of all that, Wraith's suit has reinforced ceramic plate armor with a carbon nanotube core and onboard weapons platforms which included a fully electronic forearm cannon and forearm mountings which could use a variety of guns and blades as attachments depending on what was needed for the mission. Overall, Wraith's a cool design, pulling in some of the best of Snake Eyes, Firefly, and Zartan, but whose execution fell flat with readers and was plagued by bad timing as just 2 years later, IDW Publishing would take over the publishing license from DDP, and at the end of the Jurwa run, it rolled into America's Elite, which started with a new creative team. Wraith's design matched the Joe's aesthetic of the time. This is when G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra was in active development, including its Delta 6 accelerator suits. Perhaps Larry Hama might do something with Wraith in the future. Other people have come back to life. Spoiler alert. He normally ignores anything outside of what he's made, but Zanya showed up. We can give that credit to the art team. But we also have Sean Collins, not as Kamakura, but as Throwdown. And he's also used Black Major and Red Shadows and the like. So the precedent is set for somebody like Wraith to come back. Wraith first appeared in the Josh Blaylock Devil's Due run on G.I. Joe with a backup story in issue 31. He appeared in a 3-part story called Phantom. And here is possibly where some of the creative team's inspiration came from. Prior to World War I, a series of French pulp fiction novels were published about a character called Fantomas, the Lord of Terror. In turn, the Italian character Diabolique drew from Fantomas. And Marvel pulled this and Diabolique's girlfriend Eva Kant when creating Phantom X for Marvel Comics and Phantom X's ship Eva. In the same way, Caldwell pulled the ideas for his own character designs, and the backstory alluded to this because they called his backup story Phantom. Juro further commented on his creation. I think the difference with Wraith is the fact that he doesn't have any prior connections to the Joe-Cobra conflict. He doesn't have a grudge against anybody, and he doesn't necessarily care to either. He'll soon find himself, though, swept up in the whole mess. At the time of Wraith's first story, Cobra had fractured. Serpentor and his cult, the Coil, were in charge of Cobra Island, and Destro had broken out from Cobra and was in fact on a mission from UN to deliver Cobra Commander to them in exchange for his own freedom. As part of the plan to make this happen, Destro charged Mistress Armada and his son Alexander with tracking down Wraith and recruiting him. So the pair headed to Brussels, Belgium to meet with Charlie Halifax at Club Flux. In a booth at the nightclub, they told Charlie that they knew he stole a stealth suit from the Chinese government just a few weeks prior, and they wanted him to use that suit to break into Blackwater prison in Mississippi to jailbreak 2 prisoners from that maximum security facility. Those 2 prisoners were Cobra agents Scrap Iron and Major Blood. Mistress Armada told Wraith that he'd be paid $1 million immediately and another $1 million after the mission was completed. His response was, "Where do I sign up?" So they used Destro's resources to get Wraith to 50 miles outside of Biloxi, Mississippi by the next night, and Wraith went to work. He took out 2 guards in the front guard station and then disabled the master security grid at a blood-splashed computer console with the 2 dead guards laid out at his feet. So Wraith broke into the prison and freed Major Blood and Scrap Iron. On the way out, the trio ran into Beachhead's team, which was him, Shipwreck, and Grand Slam. Wraith told the 2 prisoners to retreat and wait for him. And then Wraith lunged and attacked both Shipwreck and Beachhead. And Grand Slam shot an anti-personnel round from his grenade launcher right at Wraith's center mass. It hit him, but it didn't take him down. And so Wraith used his forearm weapons to shoot the 3 Joes down. Luckily, these were less than lethals. They were Hornet's Nest rounds that shoot a beehive flurry of 18 22 caliber ammo from one 40mm shell. It's like buckshot on steroids. He told them they were about to be very busy. Wraith tapped into the security grid and opened every cell in the prison, releasing 4 dozen military prisoners from their cells to roam free. Now that they were busy, Wraith cloaked himself and walked outside where his associate Chloe was waiting with transportation. Major Blood and Scrap Iron were already in the truck. Chloe is the same lady, by the way, that was with Wraith at Club Flux in Brussels. The B cover for issue 33 got the Michael Turner treatment. Michael Turner is a comic book illustrator legend who passed away far too early and is still, to this day, one of my favorite artists. So, Mistress Armada, Alexander, Major Blood, and Scrap Iron took Wraith to a meeting with a group of underworld leaders and told them that Wraith was going to kill him, letting them know he is exclusive to Destro now, and that Destro sends his regards. By issue 34, Wraith made the transition from backup, ancillary story to the main story. Destro went to Cobra Island in the Gulf of Mexico to meet with the Crimson Twins. It was an interesting time for Cobra, because Serpentor and the Coil and his army of defectors were back under Cobra, and Cobra Commander himself was now in custody. Destro made his play for control though, and as Xamot and Tomax denied this to Destro, Destro introduced them to Wraith. While this was all going down, Mirage, originally part of the Mega Marine sub-team, was running a covert op in a Colorado town named New Moon, gathering humans on the suspected Cobra front. But the team missed their last 2 sit reps, so Flynn had Snake Eyes, Roadblock, Clutch, and Mayday head into the Cobra-controlled town to extract their lost team. Mirage's green shirt team was breaking down. Thomas Stahl, codenamed Blackout, was panicking after Julie Hahn was shot in the street and Cobra was hunting them. Curtis Lutzen would die on this mission as he tried to save Hahn, and then Cobra saw the inbound extraction team and hit their van and the helicopter with a missile. As they fell to the ground amid the rubble of their ruined van, the team encountered Scrap Iron, Major Blood, and they met Wraith. This led to a brawl between Snake Eyes and Wraith in the streets of New Moon, Colorado. Edged weapons, fists and heels slashed and smashed and uppercut the 2 opposing fighters. In a rare moment, Wraith managed to land a few hits on Snake Eyes. And after Snake Eyes crashed through a window, Wraith grabbed his ankle and took Snake Eyes down. And as Wraith stood over Snake Eyes' body, calling him a pig in French, Roadblock snuck up behind him and smashed his head with the butt of his MG. Beaten to the ground, Wraith cloaked himself and ran off. And he called for a pickup from Scrap Iron, who was shooting at the Joe team in the van with the cannons atop of his tank. So Wild Bill managed to extract the G.I. Joe team just as Major Blood blew up literally the entire town. And worse, Cobra filmed the extraction and made it look like the firebombing of the town was done by Wild Bill's chopper. And it's this failed operation that led to Mars Herring taking over G.I. Joe while Destro consolidated his forces under him with promise of Tempest to come. For this new order and new Cobra hierarchy, Destro said that Wraith would serve as a field agent for him, as well as being head of security for the Baroness, who was now pregnant and needed Scalpel to administer her care. Wraith then went covertly to surveil the jugglers. He learned the location of the Joe's pit and relayed that information to Destro on Cobra Island, so based on Wraith's intel, the pit was destroyed. Cobra Commander went to Cobra Island to meet with Destro, so he tasked Wraith with protecting the Baroness. Do whatever it takes, he told him, telling him to not let anything keep them from leaving safely. So they jumped in a Night Raven and left the island, but they didn't get far. On a monitor that Destro and Cobra Commander's allies were watching, the jet blew up in midair. And Wraith resurfaced, well, not really, but he reappeared in the first issue of America's Elite. He was aboard an Ares-class Mars submarine with Destro submerged deep in the Mariana Trench of the Pacific Ocean. The Baroness, however, was also alive, but she was in Joe custody, and she, it turns out, was never on that jet they saw blow up. Later, General Gibbs landed at an abandoned airfield in Algeria to meet with a contact for a trade. There they found the Baroness strung up on her knees in the back of an armored car. As they found her, Wraith decloaked and took out 2 of Gibbs' guards. Wraith was General Gibbs' contact. In exchange for giving him the Baroness, he wanted a sizable bounty and for his name to be cleared. Baroness looked at Wraith with both the hair from her bangs and anger filling her eyes and promised him that she'd have her revenge, that she would kill him for this. When the Baroness finally escaped from Joe custody, the Baroness was on a rampage. Her mission now was to take out everyone from her past who had wronged her. So Anna went to Prague to meet with Dusan to get intel on Halifax's whereabouts, as he was next on her hit list. Baroness called Halifax on his cell phone as he was partying at Karlovy Lasna nightclub in Prague and told him to meet her at Josefov Cemetery. She asked him where her baby was, and he replied with gunfire, and a firefight quickly erupted amid the headstones and buried corpses and ghosts of the past. Wraith tried to cloak himself, but Baroness disabled the ability to do so with a pre-installed failsafe. And now that she knew where he was, she tossed a rocket in which hit him in the head and knocked him to the ground. As she stood above Wraith, she ripped his helmet off, and he told her that Cobra Commander had her child. But it wasn't enough. The Baroness shot and killed Wraith with what looks like a VZ-61 Scorpion, the muzzle flash illuminating the falling snow and tombstones all around them. Wraith was dead, and the Baroness got her revenge. So the Baroness put on Wraith's stealth suit and met up with Wilder Vaughn of the Red Shadows in Ho Chi Minh City. She told him that she wanted the location of Cobra Commander, the guy Halifax that had her baby, and in exchange she'd give Vaughn the suit, a suit that was made by the Red Shadows to begin with. So the story had come full circle, a big red circle with a big red shadow. On the action figure side, there were only 2 action figures for Wraith, and they were both released in 2008. One came equipped with a really oversized FNP-90 and a cool flip-up Tony Stark style faceplate. He was colored in a silver and bluish gray and came armored, and then the second was more of a chase figure, and this figure was a clear, translucent blue color. And this figure was actually created using many parts from the 2008 version of Snake Eyes. Funny enough, Brandon Jerwa said he was disappointed that he didn't get the right to file card for Wraith, and he also didn't get any comps. Wraith is a relatively new character, and so he wasn't around for Sunbow or the Deke animated series, so he wasn't animated. Which means we're at the end of the story, and that's a wrap on this, my friends. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and you'll be one of the first to know when I upload videos just like this every single week. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.